Hello, everyone. Welcome to another MGG Live. Whether you're watching on my channel, Mike's Gaming Gala, or the Retro Bliss Gaming channel, we're simulcasting there. You are welcome. I can see the chat for both. And today we have something pretty fun, I think. We have, so our friend John, the 7800 Pro Gamer at the Atari Network, he has a YouTube channel here. I imagine most of you guys who are viewers of my channel are probably at least aware of him. But if you aren't, definitely go check out his channel. He makes a lot of great stuff. And as the channel name might suggest, he covers everything Atari. He covers homebrew, he covers 2600, 5200, 7800, Lynx, Jaguar. It's a great channel. But he released a video called Should You Buy the Intellivision Sprint? And I had a person ask me if I could react to this. I have reacted to one of John's videos before, the problem with Atari Age. That was back when they were still really struggling to get out all of those last chance orders. I think those are all out now. I hope they are. If they're not, then wow. But yeah, so we're going to react to that. I am an Intellivision fan, and it is my perception that John is not, and that is fine. I think the person that wanted me to react to this was hoping he'd get angry Mike, and Mike gets angry for some things. Mike got really angry with that Burger Time BS in the Intellivision homebrew community. Mike gets angry when something is clearly really phoned in and just there as a cash grab. Mike does not get angry when you like something that he doesn't like or when you don't like something that he does like. We're all adults and not everybody likes the same things. So, the other reason I wanted to react to this is because I think, especially in the homebrew community, we can get in our heads that we're more popular than we really are. And it is always good to get an outside perspective on the stuff that we love. Not to mention, if we want to broaden this community and broaden the appeal of the Intellivision, it's really useful to know what other people think of it, or what other people's impressions are. I am also under the impression, I looked through a couple of the comments. Keep in mind that this was released, this video from Atari Network was released a month ago. So it was before the Intellivision Sprint was in anybody's hands. It had already been shown at PRGE. I got to play with it. Casey, the Intellivision Gamer, got to play with it. John, Gen X Grown Up, got to play with it. There were a lot of different people got to play with it. So we had an idea of what it is and what it was. And quite frankly, in my opinion, I think it is a must buy. But his thumbnail here, John's thumbnail, says must buy or novelty. And we are going to see his argument. We're going to see what he thinks about it. And this is, keep in mind, like I said, this is him from a month ago. And I am under the impression that he didn't really understand all of the features. But at the same time, like if he had watched my video or if he had watched Intellivision Gamer's video fully, he would probably have had that information. But any system, any piece of hardware that you have to watch YouTubers to get all your information probably isn't being advertised as well as it should have. I think Atari did a really good job at getting the news of this out there, but maybe not as great a job telling people how special it really is, because it is. So let's go up here and say hello to the chat. Casey, the Intellivision Gamer's in here. He says a must own, of course. If you have any interest in Intellivision stuff, you need to watch the Intellivision Gamers channel. He is the #1 Intellivision show on YouTube, in my personal opinion. He covers nothing but and he's done a lot of great content already on the Sprint, so you should absolutely check him out. And he is going to be in the intro to this week's review of Mermaid Enchanted Ocean from Intellivision Revolution. And I apologize in advance. The intro to this week's video may be the most disturbing thing I've ever put to YouTube. So look forward to that. Code Monsieur is here from Georgia, USA. Chris Walker, howdy. We've got Torque, evening. Happy winter solstice. Isn't the solstice the 21st? I thought it was the 21st. I could be wrong, but I think it's the 21st. We have got Off Grid Arcade. We have got... yeah, this isn't Michelle tonight, but everybody will be suitably traumatized on Thursday, I promise. And yes, Casey's only here for Michelle. Bears fan Goomba. We've got Savitor. Jeremiah Thomas. Yeah, I figured it had been. So, the biggest gripe from that previous video that I reacted to is now gone. Thank goodness. Hi, Mike. You must be speaking of that 4-year period. Yes. As an Intellivision, it's a must-have. I love it. I'm cooking and listening. Hey, Genix Gamer, how are you doing, sir? Mr. Postow's in here. Man, is that an old giveaway? That was my very first giveaway. I gave away a copy of Mr. Sub, or Go Sub, not Mr. Sub. We got DeAndre77 here. Operation Shutdown. Oki Organics. Mine should show up Thursday. Remember playing with my bro when he was little. Gonna be fun. Yeah, mine is... I haven't gotten a different date from Amazon, so it should still be the 18th. I don't have mine yet. Everybody just saying hello to each other's. He played with it a lot, yes. Not in a circle. Oh, actually kind of in a circle. Like everybody was standing around and people were playing it. John does not like the Intellivision. That is the main basis for his Sprint opinions. And you know what? That's totally fine. Like I said, hearing those outside opinions, even though they may hurt, could maybe open our eyes to ways to potentially win somebody over, or hey, at the end of the day, I don't have stock in Atari, so if he doesn't want to buy one, he doesn't have to buy one. I'm not concerned really either way. Hey, Keo Daikin, how are you doing? Welcome. Keo Daikin has an awesome channel if you're into the computer stuff and the arcade stuff. He's been a guest on our podcast a few times. Oki says he's going to take his Sprint to family Christmas and let all the little kids play and keep them busy. There's some stuff on there that the kids will like. My kids do like the Intellivision, but it's not a go-to for them by any stretch. I'm doing very well, thank you. Yes, the short will be out tonight. Disturbing equals a must-see. We've got OG Hugo in the chat. He's one of the people that maybe helps some others with their biggest complaint about the Intellivision. I know a lot of people, their biggest complaint is the controller. Disturbing is a must-see. I think I already clicked that. Kelly, how's it going? That's Mrs. Off-Grid. Corey talking about Intellivision. This is a must-own. I agree, but again, we're going to get Atari Network's opinion on it. It's about a 12-minute video, so I don't feel too bad that I'm saying all these hello to the chat. If you could say Merry Christmas, I could say Happy Solstice. Oh, okay, you're talking about like the solstice season, like Saturnalia kind of thing. Fair enough. But the winter solstice is a specific day. Christmas is a season, Christmas Day. If I said Happy Christmas Day, I'm not going to fight you on it. You can have solstice. Off-Grid Arcade, the second-gen gamer videos coming soon. Actually, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Bart because I have a feeling that another one of the complaints will be the fact that there's no cartridge slot. Um, Bart had to wait until the 7800 plus was $50 before he was willing to spring on because he doesn't want to collect cartridges. And I think there are a lot more people out there that are in that camp than we think. Can I show off the cartridge slot? The Sprint does not have a cartridge slot, and I don't even have my Sprint yet. So kids sometimes have a hard time with the disc. My kids don't. It is what it is. I know a lot of people don't like it. It's an early D-pad. Yeah, it's like the grandfather of the D-pad. What's up with the thumbnail? I am going to be reacting to the Atari Network's Should You Buy the Intellivision Sprint video. So I've got his thumbnail, I've got me like I'm reacting, and then I have his tagline there and Mike reacts. So all right. Okay. All right. Okay. Keep posting in the chat. That's fine, but we are going to start. Oh, here we go. We got Genux Grown Up in the chat. We got another John. He says, I'm coming around to that disc controller for some games. I'd argue it's better than a stick. The disc, again, it's one of those things that it really takes some getting used to, but once you do, for the games that it's really meant for, it works really, really well. And you're not supposed to use the disc really like a deep. You're not supposed to be tapping it. You press it down and you move around. It's meant for that kind of thing. But yeah, let's add this, the Atari Network right here. I'm subscribed. You should be too. Absolutely check him out. He makes good content. But we are going to see his opinion on the Intellivision Sprint. Now, I've got the audio all the way up, which means it's blasting my ears, which is why I have one off here. But let me know how the audio is as we watch.
I am an Atari fan. I suffered the history of a company that was most relevant before I was born, and a company that has been dealt from new owner to new owner, all of which felt like they wanted to drain the name of any goodwill and relevance that it had left. If it wasn't for Atari Age, Atari I.O., and a few other fleeting moments in the history of Atari, I probably would have given up years ago. But even knowing how up until recently, my beloved video game company was nothing more than an industry joke, it pales in comparison to what Intellivision fans have gone through. Because while...
Yes, this is incredibly true. So I think John's a little younger than I am. I'm in my mid 40s. I assume he's either in his late 30s or maybe like around that era, because he says that the heyday was before he was born. But back in the day, obviously Atari was a powerhouse, and then it dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. They kept snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Intellivision was never a massive threat to Atari. Maybe in 79 briefly. But Atari, like, you just look at the numbers. Atari sold like 30 million consoles. Intellivision was like anywhere between 3 and 5 million, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know we got a lot of Intellivision fans in the chat. But what really, really hurts though is the last, oh man, it's been like 7 years now of complete BS with the Intellivision name being dragged through the mud. I think a big part of why, is the Sprint perfect? No, it's not perfect. I would want a cartridge slot. But I think it was probably their smartest move. And honestly, Intellivision needs a win, man. Like Intellivision has been through the ringer. Yeah, so Atari did, yeah, that, being the first in definitely help. Do here. Brother Blue said, I watched John's video when he dropped it. I love his channel, but didn't agree with his opinion, which is fine. We're all adults. We can have different opinions. Justin says, in looking at old gaming magazines, I recall a lot of people used to the joystick would review the NES controller unfavorably, comparing the D-pad to the Intellivision disc pad. I believe it. I remember somebody reading an article where, the first game on PlayStation where you moved with the two thumbsticks, like it was a first-person perspective, and it was like the modern controls. Somebody said like this is absolutely awful because the tank controls were what they were used to. So it is what it is. And Intellivision was eclipsed by the ColecoVision. The Intellivision had kind of run its course by that point. Obviously, Intellivision went on for quite a while after that, but the Coleco came in and made a splash. And yeah, the Coleco brand is a little more than a trademark nowadays. And a big part of that too is because a vast majority of that library was licensed. So, okay, let's get back to it.
I had bad products, cash grab games, and silly business ideas to cling to. Intellivision fans have had literally nothing. Well, maybe a compilation here and there. And then they had a gaming veteran come and give them more hope than ever before, but failed to deliver and just ended up creating the biggest retro gaming fiasco in recent history with the Intellivision Amico.
That's an understatement. Oh, that is a big understatement.
So today I want to talk about why the Intellivision Sprint is important, what it means for Intellivision fans, and what the future may hold based on how this product performs.
Must own or just a novelty?
For those that don't know, Atari acquired the rights to the Intellivision brand back in May of 2023. And for many of the most senior retro gamers, this was an insane announcement. It would be like Nintendo buying Sega or Microsoft buying the PlayStation brand.
I remember how nuts it was when you started getting Sega games on the GameCube. It just didn't compute for me. It's like, what is Sonic doing here? Mr. Posthouse says, I knew one kid in my whole elementary school that had a television, and he was a jerk face. So that made the Intellivision a jerk face too. That's it. We're on Bliss's channel, and you're typing. That's my bad, Phil. I didn't look to see the naughty words. You're all right. You're all right. We're PG-13. But yeah, if you're, so I didn't even know the Intellivision existed when I was a kid. I was an Atari kid. I was most definitely an Atari kid. And we went from Atari to NES. And that didn't even happen until 89. So I imagine it's probably a little surreal for some people that Atari owns the Intellivision brand. It isn't for me because I don't, there was no rivalry. There was no even acknowledgement of existence back in the day. And to be fair, I didn't know the ColecoVision really existed either. I just had 2600. So yeah, for older folks who maybe, at school is like, oh, I have an Intellivision, I have an Atari. Maybe it's not quite to the level of Nintendo, Sega, or Xbox, PlayStation, but it is there.
That's to say, at one point in history, this would have felt impossible. And many people wondered what Atari would do with the Intellivision name and the rights to the game.
Keep in mind, it's different. It doesn't feel impossible, I think, because like the Atari 2600 had the N Network games, which were ports from Intellivision games, like Frog Bog and Tron Deadly Discs and stuff like that. And the Intellivision had Atari Soft games. So you were playing Atari on Intellivision, you were playing Intellivision on Atari. And the Intellivision also, much like the ColecoVision, did have a game system changer where you could play your Atari 2600 carts on your Intellivision. So, and Lock and Chase is a good example. That was on both systems. But in terms of one of these companies owning the other, yeah, that's a jolt.
They had acquired. We assumed we would see new DLC based around the brand on the Atari 50th collection, and maybe some new compilations on modern consoles and the Atari VCS. This new iteration of Atari had been delivering magic and products that brought fans hope, and some people were praying that they could do the same thing for Intellivision.
I know that a lot of us in the Intellivision community, not everybody, but a lot of us, breathed a huge sigh of relief when Atari announced that they purchased the Intellivision brand. Because Atari does, like with the Atari 50, they did an absolutely wonderful job. The 2600 Plus, despite not being perfect, much like I don't think the Sprint is perfect, is a really good piece of hardware. Atari's been doing a lot of really, like the recharge games. Atari's been doing a lot of really cool things. Justin says people underestimate just how ubiquitous the Atari name brand was. Yes. Like even when people had an NES, before the NES really became the big massive thing, Atari was just a blanket term for video games. Oh, are you going to go play Atari? And it truly was the Wild West. Yes. Oki says, we was poor. All our consoles and games came from garage sales. So I was playing them when everybody else had already moved on to Nintendo and Sega. Yeah, I was kind of like that too. All my friends had Nintendos. It was Christmas of '89. It was almost 90 before I had an NES. So
we got little bits here and there, some t-shirts and the odd Intellivision title. But all was quiet while Atari pushed their Plus line of consoles.
It was quiet for a long time.
The cartridges to go with those Plus line of consoles, and tons of modern releases that harken back to their glory days.
I do remember people getting really excited over the first Intellivision homebrew from Atari Age, Akalabeth, or Akalabeth, or however you want to pronounce that. But yeah, a lot of us were, and we actually did podcasts. What do we think Atari is going to do? I was on a couple of podcasts with Casey. What do we think is coming? And none of us called Emulation Box. We all thought it would be an Intellivision Plus. So when we found out about the Sprint, it was interesting to say the least.
I wouldn't be surprised if some people even forgot about the acquisition of Intellivision. But at this year's PRGE, we were hit with a huge reminder. They announced the Intellivision Sprint and gave the news that we would have our grubby little fingers on it this December. A short turnaround after the long wait.
For the record, not a good version of Frogger.
For the My Arcade Atari Game Station Go. And the more bearable wait that we endured for the Pac-Man Namco collaboration of new hardware and games that came out this fall. The announcement came out of nowhere for the general gaming public, and a buzz immediately started in the Facebook groups and forums about what this all meant and what the future would hold. Some people were ecstatic about the announcement, and some were very disappointed. But let's find out exactly what it is that was announced before I address that and give my own opinions.
I find the people in the community that were disappointed, like actively disappointed, were just the collectors that were focused on playing cartridges, which I understand. I would love if this thing had a cartridge slot. I wanted something with a cartridge slot. I'm not going to lie. But the biggest Atari's never going to make an FPGA system. I can't see it ever happening. The cost that they would have to charge for an FPGA, even if they combined, 2600, 7800, 5200, Intellivision, everything that they have the rights to, um, would just be cost prohibitive for their audience. One thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that, of the broad spectrum of retro gamers, collectors are like, they're only a part of that. There's a much broader community out there that wants to play older games that doesn't want a stack of cartridges everywhere. Um, Off Grid Arcade, he is excited for this. I don't know if he's gotten his yet, but he's excited for this because he doesn't have to have, it's not something that he buys and then he has to go out and buy a whole pile more cartridges. He can buy the ROMs that he wants. He can download the ROMs that he wants. And still have a pretty authentic feel. These cartridges feel, these controllers feel really good for like they feel like authentic Intellivision controllers in many ways. So you can have that feel of playing Intellivision without having to have a whole stack of cartridges. Now, as a collector, having to use my cartridges is no big deal. I've got thousands of cartridges in my collection for various different systems. But even for the homebrew community, like you look at, and let's keep it in the Atari realm. You look at Champ Games. You'll buy one of their games for 60, 70 bucks. I don't remember exactly how much they cost. And you get that one cartridge. But he also does the ROM sales, and I'll bet you that the ROM sales do almost, if not the same, as good as the cartridges, because spending that much money on a single game is not feasible for a lot of people, especially if you want to just play all these games. So if you can get the ROMs, I know it doesn't satisfy the collector part of you, but if you can get the ROMs, you're set. So let's scroll up here. Yes, the M Network games were to the VCS pretty quick. Wireless controllers are good. I'm sure he's going to talk about that. I'm trying not to talk about things that he might still talk about. We're only 3 minutes into this. So this is the other thing. This is something that I have to. If you're not an Intellivision fan, you don't understand this. Homebrew games, the vast majority of them these days, are programmed on what are called JLP carts. JLP carts allows you to save to the cartridge. It allows for more memory. It bank switching, stuff like that. It gives you a lot more options to make cooler games. That is why it is still my opinion that the reason to have an Intellivision 2025 is the homebrew community. The homebrew library mops the floor with the original library. Absolutely mops the floor with it. The problem is JLP has built-in dumping protection, which means that you can't dump the ROM from it. And what does a system like the Atari 2600 Plus do? It dumps the ROMs off the carts. The Atari 2600 Plus, even with, it's much better now that it's had its firmware updates, and I imagine it will have more in the future, but it still does not play everything. And that isn't because of the emulator. The emulator is Stella. Stella is an awesome emulator that plays everything. It's because of the ROM dumper. If the ROM dumper can't get a clean ROM for Stella to play, it's not going to play your cartridge. And that is why and I know I've gotten flack for saying this, but on the Plus systems, give me an SD card slot or a USB slot to sideload ROMs, and then you bypass that. You're going to be compatible with everything. So what does this do? This removes the cartridge slot, which means, yes, you can't play any carts on it, but it will play JLP ROMs. It will play JLP bin and config files. And that is huge. I still think in 2026, holiday 2026, we will get something more along the lines of an Intellivision Plus that will play cartridges. I have heard rumors to that effect. Do not, so take it with a grain of salt, but they are rumors, but I've heard them. I bet you though that it doesn't have the ability to sideload ROMs. So it's one of those things you kind of need both at that point. Off Grid Arcade says he's happy to have the side loading of ROMs and HDMI. Yes, so I'm going to talk about that later. So it's Off Grid's fault that we didn't get a cartridge slot. I knew it. Yeah, probably. I do hope that I have a feeling they will. When Atari starts releasing their USBs with either one game or a collection of games on them, please, God, at least have the overlays in there. I'd love manual too. And Off Grid Arcade, yes, he lives in a tiny home. He doesn't have room for cartridges. So yeah, dig a cart seller. Justin Messer says, one thing I like about the Switch is that as a docking port for the Joy-Cons, I kind of like this aesthetic of having a place to put your controllers on the console. It's why he loves his Famicom. Well, there you go. There's a picture of it right there. Okay, just bury your cartridges. I wish more companies did this old school docking port for controllers like the ColecoVision or the Intellivision. Yeah. Yes, the original library had Kool-Aid Man, and that is an additional reason why the homebrew library mops the floor with it. Yeah, too soon, man. Too soon. Okay, so let's get back to John's video. These controllers, by the way, do feel really good. If you don't like Intellivision controller, you're not going to like it.
Celebrates the 45th anniversary of the console by selling an HDMI-compatible version with 45 games built in, wireless controllers that are true to the original and dock in place for charging, and overlays for every game included. It sounds like a
I will say 45 games, if this was just a plug and play, not a bad set. Not every game that Atari owns is on here, but there is one homebrew on there, and that is Boulder Dash, and it is a great game.
It's the form factor of the Plus line of 2600 and 7800 consoles, where it's essentially a redesign of the original that looks mostly the same while reducing the size. Some of the more notable included games are Astro Smash, Boulder Dash, Frog Bog, Night Stalker, Shark Shark, Thunder Castle, Tower of Doom, and Sub Hunt, among others.
There's some really good games in that library. Some really good games. And I say that as a person who has no nostalgia for the Intellivision. I actually am not a big fan of Astro Smash. I know that pisses off a lot of Intellivision fans, but I'm not an Astro Smash guy. But it's a classic and it's here. You've got Shark Shark, which is a pretty decent game. You've got Night Stalker, which is great. Thunder Castle, which is great. There's some really good games on here.
A lot of other notable Intellivision games are missing, such as Advanced Dungeons & Dragons and Discs of Tron. But that's to be expected, as these are both licensed games. Overlays have been a huge part of the original Intellivision experience, and the fact that they kept them is sure to be nostalgic for those familiar with the console.
For some games, they're absolutely required. Most games, they're not required, but for some games, they're absolutely required. And if I think, and I think if they had not included them, they would have gotten a huge backlash. And let's be honest, they're pretty cheap to include, so I'm glad they did. I don't think built in are any Atari Soft games, which actually seems like it. Well, so like Atari Soft Pac-Man was licensed, so they wouldn't be able to do. Well, they have the Pac-Man license. I don't know. I don't have a list of the games that are on it in front of me. I don't think any of them are Atari Soft, but they should have some theoretically.
This Sprint console is currently up for pre-order, and yours can be reserved for $150 US. Now, before you ask, no, there is no cartridge port. But there are USB slots that will allow for adapters to use original Intellivision 2 controllers for those of you who like to suffer.
Okay, so I got to respond to that. The Intellivision 2 controller. Here, I'm going to bring myself full for a sec. Intellivision 2 controller is what he is referring to. I hate these. I absolutely hate these. The disc feels okay. The buttons are awful. You barely even know when they're pressed. This here, the number pad, it doesn't have the bubbles, so sometimes it doesn't feel like you don't really know if you're pressing it or not. And also, like, because I'll usually play games without the overlays, so I don't have to look down. I can just feel where the bubbles are, and I know where my thumb is on the keypad. Like, this is awful. This, on the other hand, this is pretty good. This is what the Sprint comes with. And I'm knocking over my water bottle. There we go. This is what the Sprint comes with. The buttons feel better. The disc feels better. The keypad feels better. However, that adapter that still hasn't come out yet, but when it does, will not only allow you to use subpar controllers on your Intellivision, they will allow you to use aftermarket controllers. This is an OG Hugo Intellivision gamepad. You don't use this for every game. If you need 16 directions in the game, this won't work because it's got the 8 direction D-pad. But games that this works for, I play almost all of them with this. It feels so much better. You still got all your keypads here. There are arcade sticks out there for the Intellivision. There is, I can't reach it right now, but there's other different controller options. There's a long play controller. I don't really recommend that one anymore, even if you could find it. Kote Gamers has stopped selling it. But there are a lot of people, like, if your biggest complaint about the Intellivision is the OG controller and the disc, get yourself one of these. Once the adapter comes out, get a Sprint and enjoy the homebrew library. 90% of homebrews are just fine with this controller. Particularly Castle of Death. Castle of Death is really great with that controller. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but in the late 70s, early 80s, everybody thought that a telephone was the ideal concept to base your controllers off of when you needed more buttons. And I understand, like, when people say that they hate this, I understand, because I absolutely loathe the OG ColecoVision controllers, to the point that I didn't play ColecoVision like at all. Until I bought an arcade stick from Brian from BD Retro Mods, and he saved the ColecoVision for me. I like playing ColecoVision now because now I don't have to use that god-awful controller. Intilab, Michael Hayes says, Pac-Man, Centipede, and Defender were Atari Soft. Dig Dug and Pole Position were started by Atari Soft, but Intellivision finished those. Okay. Okay. Mike's disc is very gold. So this is a disc from the refurbished console from Intellivision Collector that I did a video on. All right. It's a refurbished controller. Trust me. Game packs and homebrews on USB sticks? Absolutely. I know, particularly, Intellivision Collector already does ROM sales. Electronite already does ROM sales. I know that Intellivision Revolution is looking into that now that the Sprint's out. And I know that Electronite and probably Intellivision Collector, although I haven't confirmed that, but they're all looking at ways to deliver physical. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Add to stage. My bad. Sorry, I'll come back here. Basically, he just said that people are speculating a cartridge port or game packs on USB. Game packs on USB, yes, absolutely. Atari is going to be coming out with those. And but cartridge port through a dongle, again, you have that issue where you're dumping a ROM, and so you need to be able. It's worthless if it can't dump JLP ROMs. Now, the reason I think we're going to get a 2600 plus in the future is because I know they're using JZI and TV. I know they're in contact with Joe's Bishak, and if anybody can get around that, he can. And so if you make a device that can play those JLP carts, then you're going to go gangbusters in the home Intellivision community for sure. But I didn't realize that I had taken it down to show the thing. So I just came back and we'll watch this.
For those who want more of an authentic experience. It also mentioned that more games will come, and many are speculating on either an adapter for a cartridge port or more game packs and homebrews to be available on USB sticks that will be sold in boxes that mimic the original Intellivision style. The cartridge adapter is mostly unlikely, because the USB port doesn't provide enough power for such a thing to work. Plus, having a dongle for cartridges that will also need a power adapter sounds like a mess akin to the 32X Sega CD life support system that Sega produced in the early to mid 90s.
It wouldn't be that messy, but it would be messy. I can't see it actually happening unless someone like homebrews one. And basically, at that point, what you'd have to do is you'd make a little dumper that dumps to a local drive, and then the Sprint reads that drive and takes the ROM off of it as if it were a thumb key.
Now, as I stated in the beginning of this video, Intellivision fans have been ignored and let down for years now, and they seem really excited for this unit. And I, for one, am happy for them. I really am. But the Intellivision Sprint just feels like a step back from everything we've been getting so far this year. The Plus line, the Game Station Go, even the Atari 400 Mini.
Okay. Step back. I disagree. I think it's a step forward. Let me put it this way. Of all the retro systems that Atari has released, the Game Station Pro, the Game Station Go, the 2600 plus, the 7200 or 7800 plus, the 400 Mini, all that. This is the only system modern Atari has ever released, aside from the VCS, that is 100% compatible with the original library. With the library that it is looking to provide. Because it's using JZI and TV, and because there's no ROM dumper to get around, it is the only system that will run, and it is the only standalone system in history that will run everything ever programmed for the Intellivision. Period. Full stop. The original, it has built-in ECS, it has built-in IntelliVoice. So, like the original Model 1 and then the Model 3, you needed an ECS to play ECS games. There is an asterisk on it'll play 100%. I'll get to that in a second. The Intellivision 2, famously, there's a couple Coleco games that it won't play, as well as requiring an ECS. The flashbacks, they'll play everything if you pay $150 to get it modded, and then it won't output it in HD. The only caveat is that ECS games that require a keyboard or the music synthesizer, they will run. The ROMs will run, but you won't be able to play them. We are very hopeful that a future firmware update will make it so that at least a computer keyboard, USB keyboard, can be plugged in, and then you can play those. I don't think you'll ever get Melody Blaster working on the Sprint. But hey, if somebody can do it, somebody will. But yeah, it is the only system, full stop, that Atari has released, modern Atari has released, that is 100% compatible with everything programmed for that system. So I view that as a step forward. Now, if you took like the 7800 Plus and you added an SD card, slot that allowed you to bypass the ROM dumper, I bet it would have similar compatibility. So I do think that the Sprint is a move forward. It's a move back if you're a collector. But again, that collector part of the retro gaming group, I think it's definitely there, but it's not as big as collectors like us seem to think. I think it's like maybe a third of retro gamers are actually collectors. You were not promised Michelle, but you will get Michelle on Thursday, and it will be traumatizing, I assure you. You'll want to bleach your eyes. Okay. I want to see a USB MIDI keyboard work with Melody Blaster 2. That would be really cool. I can't see it being a priority, but that would be really cool. All right. So I do view it as a step forward. If if you're desperate for a cartridge slot, if you have a big cartridge collection and you want to play those carts on this system, it's just not the system for you. I do think a Plus is coming out eventually. Okay.
Felt like better products to me. The Intellivision Sprint is, as I said before, lacking the cartridge port, which would allow for modern televisions to accept and play our original cartridges while giving collectors something new to buy and collect. The Game Station Go can be played on the go or plugged into the TV and can be expanded on in a ton of different ways to keep things fresh and exciting for long after you get bored of the packed in titles.
I will say that when the Game Station Go was announced, I wasn't excited about it. It was an easy pass for me. But when I did handle it and play it a bit at PRGE, it's a really well built system. It's a nice system for sure.
And heck, the Atari 400 Mini offered a way to play often ignored games from not only the 5200, but the long ignored Atari 8-bit line of computers. And there are a ton of games that have been abandoned on that platform that people wanted to play again.
Yeah, but again, it emulates 5200 very poorly. Like the emulation itself is fine, but without the control, the 400 Mini I thought would be really good, and it just sits in its box for me. And it doesn't have the same compatibility. Cool little system, but
So the Intellivision Sprint features none of those things. And if you're somebody that hasn't experienced Intellivision,
okay, wait. If your whole thing was now I'm gonna fight you, John. No, I'm not. If your whole thing was, hey, the 400 Mini allowed people access to a library that's been long forgotten, the Intellivision Sprint does the same thing, and it allows you to play that original Intellivision library if you never played it back in the day. I agree. 8-bit computers, there's a lot of people with nostalgia for them, but there's a lot of people just like, hey, I want to try it out. That I think is the target market for the Sprint. It's people who are like, I never had an Intellivision. I've always been curious. I can buy this and a USB key, and I could play every Intellivision game from the original library, and then I can play a bunch of free homebrews. And if I really like it, I can buy some homebrews. As opposed to, I'm going to get this system, and now I have to decide what cartridges I want to buy. The 2600 Plus model is definitely better for Atari because they can keep selling cartridges. I do honestly believe that the Intellivision Sprint model is better for the consumer. the broader consumer, not necessarily the collector, but the consumer, because it allows, like, I released, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, a video on where to get ROMs for your Intellivision Sprint. And there was hundreds there that you could buy and were free. There were over 60 games that if you've got 10 minutes, you could just go to the links in the description of that and you'd have 60 free Intellivision games to throw on a USB and just hop on this. And now you've got 105 games on the system. And it took you 10 minutes. Okay. Let's scroll up here. Ooh, lots of stuff. Okay. Yeah, Corey is the only Intellivision collector. He buys everything, so nothing's left for others. I think many of the collectors, and I would argue even non-collectors that may be new to the retro scene, and those that are late would want cartridges. Yes, but like I said, I've got thousands of cartridges in my collection. I do like the fact that I don't have to go and plug one in every time. So there's that aspect to it. It doesn't stop me from collecting, but for the convenience, I would play this way. And second, like I said, if you're not sure about Intellivision, you just want to dip your toes in, this allows you access to all of it, and then you can start collecting. Non-collectors, like my dad, I got him. He was the one that for me, like he introduced me to gaming. My first system was his Atari 2600. He loves Space Invaders. He loves all of that. One birthday, I got him an Atari 2600. I kind of refurbished. Recapped it. I made it all nice and clean. It worked perfectly, and I bought him 3 games for it. And I asked him, oh, do you play your Atari? Did you go and buy any games? He's like, I would love to play it, but the games that I want, I can't find, and I don't really want to collect cartridges. And like like I said, there is a much broader scope of people. And most of the ones that I've talked to actually don't want to start collecting cartridges for a new system. That is not to say that they don't exist. I am a cartridge collector through and through, but I think this was the smartest move for Atari, especially like you dip your toes in, and then next year you release something with a cartridge slot that doesn't play ROMs, and now you got them twice. Prices of games go up, and again, like homebrews, like Atari 26 homebrews, you can buy ROMs for 10 to 20 bucks, or you can buy the complete unbox for 60 bucks. And in this economy, I think a lot more people are starting to buy ROMs. Same could happen with Intellivision. Right now, you can get them really cheap, but that could change. And if an Intellivision Mini with cart capability comes out, I do think it will. John would sick his dogs on me. Yeah, that's fair. I put my 400 Mini and C64 Mini in a storage bin. I really thought that would play them more. And that's too bad. The reason I like the USB version of the Sprint is because there's so few Intellivision cartridges around, especially outside the US, which means playing games just becomes so much harder. Okay. Kind of scroll through here. Yeah, Poe's happy to have them, but never had time for them. And yeah, trust me, we all wish we had more time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Especially in like Intellivision homebrew games, you're looking anywhere from 60 to 80 bucks these days. So getting the ROMs is a lot cheaper. Apparently there's a program to help people with the Sprint ROMs and all the artwork and files. You guys see that? It's free, and I have a video in my Sprint playlist. Don't go watch till after the stream. Yes, don't go watch till after the stream. But like I said, if you need any anything, any information in television, Casey's the place to go. All right, let's oh dear. Let's
Vision games, or the controllers for that matter, well, in my opinion, they just aren't that great. Now, I know, plenty of people hate the Atari 2600 and the hardware that Atari has produced, but I'm only giving my honest opinion. I purchased an Intellivision plug and play from a drugstore about, 10 years ago now? And I played it for a weekend and put it in the closet, and it's still there to this day. This kind of feels like the same thing.
So the problem with plug and plays, stock plug and plays like what that was, or the Atari flashbacks, is it's never the collection of games that you want. It's never like it doesn't have any of the licensed games. It doesn't have any of like, especially like Atari 2600 collections drive me nuts because you want the Activision games, you want the Imagic games, and they never have them. It's like I don't need Centipede again. I don't need, all these, stock Atari games. That's not to say that they're bad, but they're not the games I'm really looking for. And the fact that you can load your own ROMs on this is you can use it as a plug and play as if you want, but you are using just a small fraction of what is capable. I don't see an attachment for the Sprint. I do see an Intellivision with cart capabilities. I have heard very strong rumors that it will happen. I cannot reveal said sources, so take it with a grain of salt, but I do sincerely think that's going to happen. Overlays are good. Yes, I don't sleep for 4 days a week. Okay, we're going to try to get through these, so I'm going to be reading a little less chat. I'll be looking at them.
I also
but I won't
had an Intellivision 2 gifted to me for use on the channel, and, well, it's just sitting there. Now, if this had a cartridge slot, then I would probably purchase it. And I know that's a weird statement after bashing the games, but I have the collector bug, and it would be great to have an HDMI compatible way to experience these games.
Okay, so in the spectrum of gamers, you've got like pure gamer on one end, and you've got like the WADA guys on the other end that just seal a game away, never to be played again, in a hope that it gains stupid value. I fall kind of on the collector side, but I like to play my games. It sounds like John does too, because if your whole thing is, if you gave me something that required me to buy more to add to my collection, then I would do it. Then you've got the collector bug, and there's nothing wrong with the collector bug, but that's an interesting statement.
It would honestly encourage me, as a collector, to collect these games and try out new homebrew. I'm just not a fan of buying USB sticks in fancy boxes.
That's fair. The idea of like, because a lot of homebrewers have been talking about, doing little small boxes with that have the overlays in it and a manual and the USB with the ROM on it. One would hope the ROM formatted for the Sprint, so that it comes up with the imagery and all that. But you can not do the collector route. You can not do the USB route and just buy the ROMs from Intellivision Collector or Electronite currently. You'd be exposed to some really awesome stuff. John, if you're watching and you're able, I highly recommend, games that might tickle your fancy. Pandora Incident, Operation Cloudfire, Police to Avenue Redux, Anthropomorphic Force, and we'll add, say, The Show Must Go On. That gives you a wide variety. I know you like some of the more oddball games, like Pandora Incident is survival horror in space. I think you'd really get a kick out of that one. But they're all available as ROMs. And the other thing with this is, like, Intellivision fans have not been blessed with something like Stella that just you put it on your computer and it works. The best emulator is JZINTV, and it requires you to get the ECS file and the GROM file and the exec file on your own, put them in, and then it's a header-based thing. I could never get it working until Michael Hayes set me up with his front end. But even then, I have to go and manually type in what shows up on the list, and it finds the ROM, and I have to tell it, does it use IntelliVoice or an ECS? This is the easiest way even to emulate Intellivision. So if somebody maybe gifts you or you decide to change your mind to buy an Intellivision Sprint, highly recommend those games that I said. I think you will get a kick out of them based on what I already know that you like.
It's just a mental block, I suppose, but I can't get past it. But that's my opinion. And I think it's important for people to vocalize whether they like the product, whether they don't, and whether they plan on buying it or not.
And one of the things that I appreciate about John, and I'm very much the same way, he doesn't give an opinion without explaining why he has that opinion. I'll never crap on somebody for having a different opinion than me, except for Jeremiah Thomas, who thinks that Night Driver is like a 9 out of 10 game. But you know, you can have whatever opinion you want. If you respectfully present it and you present your reasons for it, great. We can all have different opinions. Who owns and updates the JZ emulator? So the JZ is Joe's B-Shack. It's Joe's B-Shack. And yes, Intelab right here. I still have to do a video on it, man. I've been so damn busy, but this man right here is the reason that I'm able to stream Intellivision. It's because I use his PID EGL front end for JZIN TV. And I have zero doubt if they make a dongle for this, that it'll play just fine. I haven't seen anybody doing using like a different controller on it. Maybe Casey can respond to that. And hey, there's the man right there. Yeah. So 8 out of 10, he says. But you know, it's okay to have different opinions. And I totally respect John's opinion as a person who is not a fan of the Intellivision controller, who has no nostalgic tie to it, whose only real experience seems to have been a flashback and the Intellivision 2, probably with a few you know, a few mediocre games. I would love for him to try it, but at the end of the day, if it isn't for him, it isn't for him. And I'll respect his opinion on that. And he's been quite respectful of it.
Even if you're vocalizing this against your all-time favorite video game company. And many Intellivision fans are voicing positivity over what this means for the future of the brand. If this unit succeeds, I believe it will be a sign to Atari that there's value in the brand and the games, and they'll continue to reward fans with more products and games. But if it fails, I think it will signify to them that people don't want Intellivision, which is why I think it's important to not only vote with your wallets, but to be vocal why we vote the way we do. I feel like Atari is dipping a toe into the Intellivision waters when they should have either dove in or left it alone.
I would agree that they're absolutely dipping their toe. I think it was an excellent dipping of the toe. I don't know what the actual numbers are. I don't know if anybody knows what the actual numbers are, but there's definitely speculation that there could be as many as 6,000 of these out there. I think that's maybe a little optimistic, but I do think it numbers in the several thousands. I wish I had mine. I don't have mine yet. And in fairness, I know Casey bought like 10 of them. So I think it will do well. And like I've said, I've heard very strong rumblings that a cartridge-based version will come out. And honestly, I don't think the cartridge-based version will do as well as this because I don't think it has as broad an appeal. I asked my dad if he wanted a 2600 plus for Christmas last year, and he said no because he didn't want to buy cartridges. And I think there are far more people like that than collectors would like to think. which is good because it means that we are the ones buying the cartridges and they can stay at reasonable prices, hopefully.
But with that said, let's dive into a what if scenario for a minute where the Intellivision Sprint succeeds. What then? Well, I think they will tell
It's
Atari,
Casey.
as I said before, to continue with what they're doing. And they'll proceed with whatever plan they have already developed, probably selling more packs of games. But beyond that, I think they will push more products with the Intellivision branding. And I think Homebrew will be getting official releases from Atari for the Intellivision.
100% already has started. Boulder Dash was a homebrew from Electronite, and it is on the Sprint. It's built into the Sprint.
Sprint, or even for the Intellivision proper. It could also mean ports to Steam and other modern platforms. And that's great because a lot of talented people are making really cool stuff for these old consoles.
Amen.
And seeing their stuff out there is what's most exciting. Putting these people and these games in a spotlight and using Atari's momentum to show the world what the oldest corner of retro gaming can do is really cool. For that reason, I do hope that the Intellivision Sprint is not only a success, but that every fan who purchased one, well, they get exactly what they want and enjoy it. Because
at the end of the day, that's what we all want. That's why I do reviews on games. Not necessarily because I think you particularly care what I think about a game, but so that you have a frame of reference to be like, I think I'll like that. I want you, if you buy, I'm reviewing Mermaid this Thursday. If you buy this game, I want, when you receive it, to get what you wanted, to get what you expected. And that's a very, very true thing. Like anybody who orders anything, I want them to get what they want.
Because Intellivision fans deserve to be happy too. Now, as I said, I won't be buying this, and I probably won't be covering it further here on the channel unless it blows up, is a lot better than I suspect, or goes beyond what's been announced already.
I think, like, now, Atari's advertising, they did, like, right here, like, right at the start, they should have said, you could put your own games on it. Yes, 45 built-in games, including Boulder Dash. They don't even mention that Boulder Dash is brand new. Well, brand new to the Sprint. Came out in 2015, I believe. But also that it's compatible with everything. Like it'll play everything that's ever been programmed for the Intellivision, and nothing aside from a hard to use emulator has ever been able to do that before. I think that is a huge step forward. I think that is a step up from the Plus systems. And the Plus systems could have that if Atari wasn't so focused on selling their carts. And I know they want to sell their carts, but you could have a system that does everything. Collectors are going to buy the carts regardless. I don't think having an SD card slot on the 2600 Plus would cause much issue. Maybe they're saving it for 5 years from now when nobody cares about the Plus systems anymore. But I wish it had it. I didn't want it at the expense of a cartridge port, but if you can have one or the other, honestly, I think the more valuable one is the side-loaded ROMs.
Because this Intellivision Sprint, it's not for me. It doesn't expand my collector's disease to buy more retro stuff. It doesn't scratch a nostalgic itch for me.
Yep.
And the games just don't excite me. I never liked the...
That is 3 very good reasons to not buy something. And it's a very mature look at it. I do hope that maybe at some point John finds a way to be able to try some of those Intellivision homebrews, even if it's just getting JZI and TV working. I think he would like them. And, when I play JZI and TV, like emulate, I usually play with one of these, and a lot of games work just fine with it. So I do hope that he gets a chance. But if the games don't excite you, and you have no nostalgia for it, and, it just the idea of it doesn't excite you, then, yeah, don't buy it. It's not for you. That doesn't mean it isn't great, but it just isn't for you.
Television style of games. That's why I'm an Atari guy. And my favorite company now owning and selling these Intellivision products doesn't really change the way I feel. But I will be linking to other YouTube channels and creators who do a great job of covering this thing for people who want to know all about it in the future. Because I love you guys, and I want you to have access to all the content you want to see, even if I'm not the one who's creating it. But with that, you've all heard what I've had to say, so now it's time to hear from all of you. What do you think of the Intellivision Sprint?
Okay, so he's kind of gone to the let's hear from the viewers thing and get that YouTube engagement. It was a good video. I obviously disagree with his take on it, but I'm an Intellivision fan. Take my view with a grain of salt. My personal opinion on it is it's a must buy. Like I said, it's the only thing that Atari makes right now that is 100% compatible with the library that it's supposed to be compatible with. It is the only device that in the history of Intellivision that has that kind of compatibility. It isn't as easy. Like, I was hoping it would just be as simple as, you throw the ROMs on, and yeah, they're not going to pop. And you could just throw the ROMs on, but then you get all the same logo, and you got to kind of search for your games. I know that there are a lot of people working right now to make it so that it populates everything there and even saves your games. It'd be nice if that was a little easier because, well, and it'd be awesome if that came from a more official source. There's a place on Atari Age. When I do get my Sprint, I'll be doing a big video on it, probably in January at this point. And I will refer to that then. But there is like a JSON and there's an image and it has to be a specific size, and then you need another image of a specific size. But once you do all that, it's all nice and pretty. And it is my sincerest hope that anybody who's selling Intellivision homebrews makes that little set. And when you deliver the ROMs, you've got a little folder on there that's like for the Sprint, and it has all the extra little files. So you can just put it all in the USB and you'll be good to go on your Sprint. So let's scroll up here. Okay. No, Tofu, no. Not even reading that comment. Okay. I have the Intellivision Flashback. Got it years ago with the box for $10. Played it twice in the last 6 years or so. Apparently, there's there's adapters so you can use those controllers if your old Intellivision controllers don't work very well. But yeah, and he was playing the arcade. The arcade was better than the 2600 version. Serial number count is now over 5,000. Atari Age have been keeping a database, so there could be, 5,000 is pretty dang good if they sold 5,000 of these. And hopefully they sell more. That is my hope. Hey, that's me. Who's that dork? Yes, Casey the Intellivision. And I did notice he actually does pin a comment where he mentions you, and you are in the description as well. If you are a big Intellivision guy, Casey's where a lot of us get our news, and you should too. Oh, I just realized I hadn't. You are in the description down here. There you go. Yes, Corey the television fella. Some of us will never be able to get an LTO, and that is, he's referring to the LTO flash cart, which is the only universally compatible flash cart. With some are getting better, but so the Sprint is perfect for him. The back bit is pretty good. Most ROMs work. The console and the games excite the Intellivision gamer. That may be why he's the Intellivision gamer. Back bit is cool. HDMI is a big thing too. Yeah, I mean, all right, I'll bring it up. Tommy bought 2600 Intellivision Sprints. And if you only play on a CRT, you don't need any of this HDMI nonsense. I'm not OG Hugo. I understand that you have some beef. I'm not going to bring that comment up. I refuse to get in the way of in between anybody, but anything you send, like anything that anybody ever sends me, I owe you a video. So I was very thankful for this. I love this controller. If you send me something, I owe you a video, but all opinions are mine. So don't send me something that really sucks, because I will tell everybody that it sucks. But I love that controller. Wookie says, the only game on there that I want is Boulder Dash. Not going to pay $150 for it, though. That's fair enough. I think, I don't know if I can actually say this, but I think that there might be some licensing thing that will allow the original homebrew cart to be sold again. Don't quote me on that, but I think there's something that, Boulder Dash may be coming back. You'll probably spend that much to get a copy off of eBay. But the ability to sideload everything else, again, this isn't just a plug and play. You can put new games on it. No Sprint sticks for Christmas. Any thoughts on when they might do this? I am not sure when, but I do know 4 games that they have, 4 homebrew games that they have the rights to. So I know kind of what's coming, and I think don't quote me on it, I think all 4 will be on one USB key. The only way to play the OG way is to either get an OG Intellivision some games, which will cost a lot more than a Sprint, or find a flashbacks, which sucks and not worth the going rate. There is like the ultimate flashback mod too that allows you to load ROMs on it. That's like I don't think he does it anymore, and it was an additional $150. So I do think, like, if anybody is looking to get into Intellivision, this is your great starting point. This is a fantastic starting point. I've got like 8 original Intellivisions, like 3 of them work. They're 50-year-old systems almost now. Between 40 and 50 years. Yeah. The Sprint's the way to go, I think. I don't have the emotional connection to Intellivision or nostalgia to want a Sprint. I would get one if and when it goes on sale sometime in 2026. And if it follows the same pattern as all the other Atari products, it will. And when it does, if it does, I probably will pick up another one, because I really like what I played at PRGE. And again, you can sideload the Atari Soft games. Doing a Google search for Intellivision ROM set, you will find everything very, very quickly. Venture was on Intellivision and ColecoVision. It was on all 3 systems. There is a Venture on Intellivision. Did get a 2600 copy of Boulder Dash from Atari Age. That's cool. Yes, unfortunately, I'm just winding down. You can go back and watch the rest, but I'm just kind of saying bye-bye to chat. Usually stream between 8 and 9, and we've gone a bit over, but this was a good one to go over for. Coleco had the rights, but yeah, Adventure, I think Coleco ported it to the Intellivision. Jamie says, I'm 51, never played Intellivision ever, and I bought one because I'm more excited for the homebrews than the original library, which is correct. If you got, like, I've got no nostalgia for it. If you got no nostalgia, there's some awesome homebrews. Also, I'll give the same list to you that I gave to John. Pandora Incident, Police to Avenue Redux, Anthropomorphic Force, Operation Cloudfire, and The Show Must Go On. That is my kind of 5 starter pack recommendations for 5200 homebrew, or not 5200, Intellivision homebrew. It's getting late. All right. Yeah, I think it's closer to 300 if you include just like the free download ones. And also, when you get your Sprint, I have a video on my channel from a couple weeks ago where to find ROMs. Like 60 of them are free. So absolutely load them up and then tell me what you think. Yeah, Venture's an awesome game. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. We had a lot of viewers today. I want to thank John, the 7800 Pro Gamer at the Atari Network, for voicing his opinion. We should not get upset at people for voicing their opinion, even if they hurt us deep inside. But it didn't. If it's not for him, it's not for him. But I do hope that he gets a chance to play some of these Intellivision homebrew games at some point, because I know he's a pretty big homebrew guy, and there are some games that absolutely I think they might win him over, but maybe that's just my bias speaking. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Had a wonderful time. I apologize in advance for this week's review. You're going to see Michelle again, and yeah, it's going to be rough, but bleach your eyes, and then, because the game's actually quite good. Absolutely watch that review for the very disturbing content. But we will see. Oh, and actually, I forgot to mention, tomorrow, probably at about noon, I plan on doing that makeup stream for the Only games. So I was doing it last week on Saturday, and then had a problem with Stella. Hoping to have that sorted out for tomorrow, and we'll do like a Retro Bliss style midday live stream at noon. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So I'll be able to show you the rest of those Oleani games that I wanted to show. But thank you all for watching. Appreciate the support so much, and we'll see you next time on Mike's Gaming Gala. Bye, guys.